How's it going, folks? I'm Des with DesFit, and this is the brand new Garmin Venu 2 Plus, which updates the original Venu 2 with some features that makes this Garmin's best smartwatch yet. So the Venu 2 Plus, it comes with all the features of the original Venu 2, like the ability to track tons of different types of activities, a super vibrant display, as well as really good battery life. But now it comes with some features that actually have never been seen on any Garmin watch before, which makes this an even more compelling option if you're considering something like an Apple Watch or a Samsung Galaxy Watch. So in this video, we'll be going over all those new features as well as my overall thoughts on how this device performs as both a smartwatch as well as a fitness device. And just like all my reviews, I'll be going into a lot of detail where I'll be showing a lot of examples with different types of activities like running, cycling, weight training, and I even went skiing with it, just so you can get a good idea if this device is going to be right for you. And if the information in this video does help you out at all, don't be shy about hitting that like button down below. It's a small little thing that you can do that'll help this video and the channel quite a bit, and I appreciate it. So first up, let's check out the hardware. So the Venu 2 Plus splits the difference in terms of size between the original Venu 2 and the Venu 2S. The new Venu 2 Plus is 43.6 millimeters in diameter. The original Venu 2 is a smidge larger at 45.4 millimeters, and the Venu 2S is 40.4 millimeters. And even though the case size is just slightly smaller than the original 45 millimeter Venu 2, they still managed to use the same large 1.3 inch diameter display with 416 by 416 pixels. And that display, just like the original Venu 2, is super bright. It's really crispy with lots of colors. It's just a really nice display. Oh, and it does also have an always-on display mode. The touchscreen is super predictable and moving throughout the interface is really easy, and the interface is snappy, animations are smooth, and it's just a nice experience. And then another difference with the hardware is that the Venu 2 Plus has a stainless steel rear cover, which definitely adds a little bit more class to it, and it also weighs just slightly heavier at 51 grams versus 49 grams. Oh, and then another smaller difference when it comes to hardware is that it uses 20 millimeter industry standard bands versus the 22 millimeter band on the original Venu 2 and the 18 millimeter band on the original Venu 2S. But a bigger difference with the hardware, though, is that the Venu 2 Plus adds an additional third button on the right-hand side of the device, and this button can be customized to do a bunch of things like launching a voice assistant like Siri or Google Assistant. And then on the other side of the watch, here's the feature that kind of puts the plus in the Venu 2 Plus. Underneath these holes right here is a new speaker which you can use for calls as well as even playing music through the watch itself. And not only that, it does also have a microphone for calls, and you can also use that microphone with voice assistants like we talked about earlier. So with an iPhone, you can use Siri. With an Android phone, you can use Google Assistant, and then with a Samsung phone, you can either use Bixby or Google Assistant. And the Venu 2 Plus is actually the first Garmin device to come with a full-blown speaker, not just like a beeper on some previous devices. So when you're in Bluetooth range of your phone, you can answer calls and speak and listen through the watch itself. And then here's what that speaker sounds like with somebody that you're speaking with. Yo, how's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
And then here's what the microphone sounds like for the other person on the other end of the line.
Mr. Des, how goes?
Pretty good. Is Lucy done drinking all the water?
And by the way, this functionality is available with both iPhones as well as Android phones, so you'll notice that the Venu 2 Plus actually just shows up as another Bluetooth connected device when you're taking a call, so you can always just switch between the Venu 2 Plus, your phone, or a pair of Bluetooth earbuds if you have those connected. And then on the watch itself, there's also going to be controls here where you can pass the call back to your phone if you'd like. Now, calls aren't the only use for that speaker. You can even listen to music that you've downloaded to the Venu 2 Plus. Now, this is a speaker on a pretty small device, and not only that, there's a lot of other stuff going on in here, so it's not like the sound's going to be mind-blowing or anything like that, but I found it to be not bad. It's going to be pretty darn good for calls, but music, not as much. And then on that subject, the Venu 2 Plus also has music storage and playback capabilities with plenty of different music streaming services like Spotify and Deezer, and you can even download your own purchase tracks to the device itself. It has about 8 gigabytes of internal storage with about 6 gigabytes usable, and Garmin officially says that you can store up to 650 tracks on the watch itself. But there's one more trick with that microphone and speaker, and that has to do with safety and tracking, where with both instant detection as well as requesting assistance, you now have the option of calling in addition to messaging or canceling the request. So it defaults to sending a text message, but now you can also use the microphone and speaker to speak through the watch if you choose to call. But just note, with all this calling functionality, including the safety and tracking, you will need to be in range of your phone because the Venu 2 Plus doesn't have any cellular capabilities. But the speaker is also utilized in other areas of the device where they have some nice pleasant tones when you start and save activities, alerts during activities, completing goals, and also some nice tones for notifications and texts. And then with text messaging with an Android phone, you can reply to text with predefined responses as well as even custom messages you can set up in Garmin Connect. And then with an iPhone, you can read those messages, but you won't be able to reply. And that has nothing to do with Garmin. That actually has everything to do with Apple, because Apple keeps the reply functionality in iMessage exclusive to Apple Watches. And then just like the original Venu 2 and even the original Venu, you can see your events, receive other smartwatch notifications, and see weather information. Battery life is rated up to 9 days in smartwatch mode, and that's without recording any outdoor activities. And then you can get up to 8 hours of GPS recording time. Battery life will vary depending on how you use it, like how many outdoor activities that you track, taking calls, listening to music, and just in general how much you interact with the watch itself. But I was getting a solid 6 to 7 days out of it, even while recording some outdoor activities, and that was without using the always on display. If you're going to be using the always on display, I would take that down to about 4 days, but still, that's very respectable considering some other smartwatches in the market today. The battery life is a smidge less than the original Venu 2, but I think that's understandable because they had to make room for a speaker on the Venu 2 Plus. And then for activity tracking, it'll track your steps, it'll track your floors climbed using the Venu 2 Plus's barometric altimeter. It'll also track your intensity minutes, which are basically minutes spent doing vigorous activity, and then it'll also track your calories all day. And then on the health and wellness side of things, the Venu 2 Plus has Garmin's latest 4th generation Elevate heart rate sensor, which I found to be Garmin's most accurate yet. And we'll talk about the accuracy of that heart rate when we go over the sports and fitness performance of the Venu 2 Plus here in just 1 second. And then the Venu 2 Plus also has an SpO2 sensor or pulse oximeter for measuring blood oxygen saturation levels. And you can enable this all day, just during sleep, and you can also take on-demand measurements. And for the accuracy, I found it to be pretty darn close to a fingertip blood oxygen sensor. The Venu 2 Plus also comes with Garmin's Health Snapshot feature, which you can kind of think of as taking a bunch of different health metrics all at one time to give you an overall gauge on your health at a given point in time. It takes about 2 minutes to collect this data, where it'll collect your blood oxygen saturation level, stress level, heart rate, as well as respiration rate. It also has Garmin's advanced sleep tracking, or it can track your sleep stages, including deep sleep, light sleep, REM, and time spent awake. And then a couple other things that the Venu 2 Plus is that it can also estimate your VO2 max for running, and they also have this metric they call fitness age, which may be an easier way of gauging your fitness level versus VO2 max, which may not be as relatable figure for some folks. And then for actual sports and fitness profiles, the Venu 2 Plus is a super capable watch, being able to track a ton, and I mean a ton of different activities, from all the standard stuff like running both inside and outside, cycling both inside and outside as well, pool swimming, strength training and high intensity interval training, walking, hiking, yoga and Pilates, indoor climbing and bouldering, and then some outdoor recreation profiles like stand-up paddleboarding and golf, as well as even some winter sports like skiing, snowboarding, and cross-country skiing. But when it comes down to how well the Venu 2 Plus does for tracking all those activities, I usually focus on 2 main areas. So GPS accuracy for tracking outdoor activities, and then heart rate accuracy for tracking all the activities. And then I also have some data to share in terms of elevation gain for outdoor activities, since this does also have a barometric altimeter. So for GPS accuracy, let's first check out this outdoor run, where basically everything lined up perfectly with the other test devices. The total distance was pretty much spot on with the other 3 devices, so we're all good to go here. And then for the finer detail of the actual GPS tracks, it was nearly perfect for the entire run. As I started out here, it was following along the road just fine. In fact, a little bit better than the device that's in green that took it a little bit wide. And then on these curves and corners at the park right here, again, quite good. I saw just 2 sections where it drifted just slightly off the road right here and then over here on the right, but other than that, I'd have to say that these results are really quite good. And then for longer distance activity on this road ride, again, things lined up really nicely. The total distance was right in line with the other test devices, as well as the elevation gain. And then for the finer detail of the GPS track accuracy on that ride, on basically the entire ride, the Venu 2 Plus was actually quite accurate. You can see that it lines up really nicely with both the map as well as the other devices, and again, a little bit better than the device in green. There was one spot right down here at the bottom of the map where it drifted just ever so slightly off the bike path, but that was incredibly minor. But one spot I wanted to point out right here is where I exited the tunnel, where the Venu 2 Plus was actually the first device to reacquire GPS, which was kind of awesome to see. And before we get into heart rate accuracy, I also wanted to go over a couple more activity profiles. So the Venu 2 Plus also comes with Garmin's skiing and snowboarding activity profile, which is able to automatically track your runs without you having to interact with the watch at all. And it does this using the Venu 2 Plus's built-in altimeter to detect when you're ascending on the chairlift and descending down the ski runs. And for how this works, all you do is just start the activity at the bottom before you head up on your first chair, and it just kind of knows that you're ascending the lift and automatically pauses the activity. And then as soon as you start descending, it automatically resumes and starts tracking your run. And then during your run, you can see your current elevation and speed. And then when you're done with that run and start ascending back on the chairlift, it again just automatically pauses and tracks that as a run. And then you can see your current run or last run information, including the time of that run, distance, elevation loss, maximum speed, as well as average speed. And then during your activity, you can also see the total information for the day. And then when you go to save the activity, you can see all this information later in Garmin Connect, where it gives you a pretty detailed breakdown of your day. And this also does sync over to Strava, by the way, even showing the number of runs. And then moving on to a couple gym activities, I also wanted to share how the Venu 2 Plus did at estimating distances run on a treadmill without GPS. And quite frankly, it did an amazing job in this 10K run, being extremely close to the distance collected on the treadmill. And then for some reason the distance is off, you do have the option of also calibrating the distance after your run. The Venu 2 Plus also comes with Garmin's strength training activity profile, which you can use to automatically count your reps in the gym. So all you do is just start the activity when you're about to start your first set. And when you complete each set, you'll just press the lower right-hand key to initiate a rest period. And then from here, you can edit the number of reps if for some reason they're off. And then you can also log the weight if you'd like that you lifted on that set. But don't worry, if you don't want to interact with your watch during your workout, you don't have to press anything on the screen. And then after a few seconds, the screen will just go away. So the rep counting works pretty well, and with most exercises, it was spot on. But with a handful of sets, the rep count was just off by just 1 rep, but not really that big a deal. Garmin's strength training activity profile will also attempt to identify the exercise that you're doing, like let's say bicep curls, which I was indeed doing on this first group of sets right here. I find the rep counting to be quite good, but the automatic exercise recognition is not necessarily something that I would rely on. But the nice thing is you can edit each set with the actual exercise that you were doing. And there is just a gigantic list of exercises that they have listed in here, along with editing the reps if you'd like, as well as adding the weight if you didn't choose to do that during the activity. And then one more thing to note is that you don't have to use the rep counting feature at all if you don't want or need to count your reps and sets, and you can just turn this feature off in the settings of the strength training activity profile. So now on to heart rate accuracy, and let's start out with one of the easiest types of activities for these types of wrist-based optical heart rate sensors to track, and that's going to be indoor cycling. So as you can see, the Venu 2 Plus did a very good job here, where it tracked basically right in line with other chest and arm heart rate sensors I was wearing for comparison. And then for running, which is a little bit more challenging activity, the Venu 2 Plus did a pretty good job here. So at the beginning, it took just a bit for all the sensors to line up, but after that, for the majority of the run, things were pretty much in line. It did, however, start to drift a little bit at the end of the run, where it had some higher readings, but no crazy spikes or dips or anything like that. So I'd say this is a pretty good result. And then for strength training, which is one of the hardest types of activities for wrist-based optical heart rate sensors to track accurately due to all the arm movement and wrist flexion, for the most part, the Venu 2 Plus did a pretty decent job. On this section here, where I was doing some bicep curls, there were a couple sets where it tracked a bit high, and then this set right here where it tracked low. And then for the remainder where I was doing tricep extensions and shoulder flies, those are pretty much good to go, maybe except for this set right here where it tracked a little bit low. And then for the high intensity intervals at the end, those are pretty good results. Overall, I think this is a pretty great update to the original Venu 2 with the addition of the microphone and speaker. And I'm not talking about just for calls. Being able to listen to music on that speaker is actually kind of neat, and it's actually currently something an Apple Watch can't do. And also, I think it's kind of smart that they leverage the microphone and speaker for the safety and tracking features. So the Venu 2 Plus runs $450, which is $50 more than the original asking price of the original Venu 2. Now, is it worth the upgrade? It's really going to come down to whether or not you're going to utilize that microphone and speaker, but I do have to say that Garmin did utilize that speaker pretty darn well throughout many portions of the interface. But when it comes to activity tracking and sports and fitness performance, honestly, the original Venu 2 as well as the Venu 2 Plus, they're both going to be fantastic in that department. Anyhow, if you liked the video, if you found the information in this video useful, do me a favor and just hit that like button down below. And if you're interested in the vívomove Sport hybrid smartwatch from Garmin, that in-depth review should be dropping right around the same time as this one. And make sure to subscribe for lots, and I mean lots more videos that are coming really soon. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.